Hi everyone! In the previous episodes of PCF Academy, I demonstrated how to create a simple control and how to deploy it to the CDS instance. But what should I do if I want to use some additional frameworks like jQuery or Bootstrap to have fancy controls? In this video, I will demonstrate how to add the framework to your PCF project and how to use it inside the code of the control.
I created the PCF project in advance. If you have any questions regarding starting of the PCF project, you can see all the steps in my first video, Getting Started with PCF. To make the jQuery framework and typing available, I use following command in CLI: npm install jQuery and npm install types jQuery. To add Bootstrap, I execute similar commands: npm install bootstrap and npm install types bootstrap. Now, when all the preparations are completed, I can switch to the Visual Studio. I use import $s from jQuery code to enable the namespace of the framework in my code, and I use similar line of code to add Bootstrap framework. The idea of the control I demonstrate is usage of Bootstrap to format text input Bootstrap way, adding placeholder and hint that appears when you set the focus on the field. I increase the speed of the video to save your time. Here is what I do. I declare two properties to store the input control and notify output change, the method that has to be called when any bound property is changed. I add the code that implements all the logic: adding of the control, setting of the styles, preparing of the text for the placeholder based on the metadata of the field that is bound to the control, and adding of the hint pop-up, and finally binding of the onChange handler to the control. The code to the updateView method to handle scenario when the field was changed externally. And I modified code of getOutputs to notify the framework that the value of the field was changed. For some reason, if the Bootstrap namespace is not used directly in the code, it is not included to the code of the component during the packing, so nothing worked the way it is expected. To include the code of the framework to the package, I had to directly use it in the code. I used following stub that does nothing. Bootstrap has own property. And the last piece of the code is adding of the control to the container that is passed as a parameter of the init method. Some frameworks, especially those that are used to build a fancy UI, contain not only JS TypeScript files but CSS files as well, like Bootstrap. In order to make all the functionality of Bootstrap available, I need to add a CSS file to the component. Here is what I do to achieve that. I create a subfolder inside the project folder. I copy bootstrap.min.css file inside that subfolder. I open control manifest.input.xml file, go to the resources section and add a CSS element to it with the attribute path that contains a relative path to CSS file. Now everything is ready for the first demonstration. In order to do that, I go to the command line interface and run npm start command. Field has bootstrap styling, pop-up appears when I set the focus on the field, and I see the text of the placeholder when I remove all the text from the input. I increase the speed of the video to save your time again. In this part of the video, I package my control and import it to the CDS instance. Now, after the control is imported to the system, I can use it on forms. In my example, I will use it to display account name field. So here is the account form before and after the control was used for the account name field. That's all for today. Don't forget to set a like under this video if you liked it and subscribe to my channel.